Hello, EduMagicians. Welcome to the EduMagic podcast with your host, Dr. Sam Fessich. Dr. Sam is a professor of education, author of EduMagic, and a pumpkin spice latte fan. This podcast is designed for pre-service teachers. Remember, friends, teaching doesn't begin at graduation, but during that first class at 8 a.m. Let's get this party started.
I'm Josh Swartz.
And I'm William Illingworth,
hosts of the High Tech Podcast, a part of the Education Podcast Network, just like the show you're listening to now.
Shows on the network are individually owned, and opinions expressed may not reflect others.
Find other interesting education podcasts at edupodcastnetwork.com.
Hello, EduMagicians, and welcome back to another episode of the EduMagic podcast. My name is Dr. Sam Fessich, and today I have with me Khristen Massic. She's going to be sharing all about strategies to help support our future teachers who are CTE or are elective or specials type teachers who have multiple preps, who have lots of stuff in their classroom, who have lots of different students coming in, and you're not teaching that traditional reading, writing, math, science, social studies type curriculum. So Khristen, welcome to the show. I'm happy to have you on.
I'm so excited to be here.
Yay! So let's start off with your teaching story. What brought you into education and what keeps you coming back?
Well, I didn't always think I was going to be a teacher, and it wasn't until I started working not in the education field that I kind of had like this thought of, I don't know if I like this lifestyle. So I was an interior designer and I wasn't sure, like I said, that I liked the lifestyle and that it was going to fit into having a future family. So that's why I went back into education. And I've been teaching engineering for 10 years in the high school. And then from there, I taught all sorts of things within the engineering realm, engineering design, prototyping, capstone projects, 3D printing, a whole bunch of things. And then I became an instructional coach, and then that led me into administration. So most recently, I was an administrator at a middle school. So I was an assistant principal for 3 years at a middle school, and that was during the pandemic. So it was kind of crazy.
Yeah.
And then, yes, there was a lot of things that were like, oh my goodness. A lot of great changes have happened to education because of the pandemic, some systems that we were forced to change that have been for the better. So that's my little side note on the pandemic. But since then, now I'm at the district office and I am a curriculum specialist for our early college programs. And then I'm also reaching out and working and supporting CTE teachers and those who have, like you were saying, multi-preps, who teach electives and who do a lot of hands-on applications of other content areas.
Got it. Thank you. Yeah, that's a great teaching story, from being teaching engineering to working in the middle school, and now to being more of a curriculum role. That is quite the journey. Did you ever see yourself here? If you could have told yourself 10 years ago this is where you would be here today?
Oh, definitely not. I just recently did like a story or a little reel on Instagram of like what I would tell myself as like from my second year perspective. And I would have no idea of where I am, especially with like technology changing so much. And that's what I taught. Like what I started teaching is vastly different than when I left the classroom, just for all of those reasons. So.
Yeah, and that technology is a part of what we teach, but methods and strategies have changed as well. So there's so much out there with education that's changing for the best, I believe. And we're working in climates that we are in spaces that our former selves never thought of us being there. It's really neat to see how a teaching journey can take shape.
It is.
So today we're talking about teachers who work in elective or specialist type classes. Can we define that for our listeners for today?
Yes. So let's start at like the elementary level. So when you're thinking about specials, those are typically those classes that your students will be removed from your classroom and go somewhere else. So this could be the library or art or STEM or computer lab, there's a whole bunch of different things, but only have your students for a short amount of time. So you could see several classes within a day because you only have them for a 30 to 45 minute, maybe an hour long class period or period of time. And then when we're talking about electives, same thing. We're not teaching math, science, and English in the traditional sense, but that students in the secondary world, they would be electing or choosing to take those other classes. Once again, they're pretty much the same variety of different options.
So can you give us a few examples of what some elective classes might be?
So in the middle school, junior high, is that what you're talking about? Middle school?
Yeah, in high school, sorry.
Yeah. So at the secondary level, your electives tend to be anything that can be, you've got your career and technical education or your CTE classes. So those are your ones that are developing career skills. So it could be any business classes, any foods classes, family consumer sciences. It can be engineering or STEM. It could be welding, carpentry. There's a whole bunch of different of the CTE, but then you also have your other electives that could be your arts and your music and any of those other, I guess, extracurricular, but they're still during school.
Right. Okay. And why are these types of classes important for students? How do they help them develop?
From my perspective, and I just, I love these classes, is they're kind of the reason why. So if you have ever had a student come and you're like, why am I learning this? That usually doesn't get asked in an elective class because as a teacher, if you are doing a great job of really connecting the dots, that's what your elective teachers do. This is how we're using math. This is how history and social studies works into this class, is how it kind of brings it all together so that students can really make those connections.
Excellent. I love that. I love how it's application, real world learning, showing what they've already learned, maybe in a math, a science, or social studies, but applying it in this space. That's excellent. So if we think about for our future teachers, how do they get certified to teach one of these classes?
Okay, so there's a lot of different ways, and depending on your state. So depending on your, like if you're going elementary or secondary, you're going to have different certifications that are required of you. When you are in the secondary world, normally you have to have an endorsement, or you might have to have an entire degree that has that elective or emphasis upon graduation. And then elementary, you can have endorsements. Usually you'll still have that same like original license. So K through 8 or 6 through 12 or 8 through 12. And then usually it's just endorsements that supplement that.
Okay. So this is something that would be state specific. We could probably go and chat with our career services or our academic advisor and find out more if we're interested in teaching some of these elective type courses in the middle, secondary, or elementary level.
Right. And there could be even like 1 or 2 classes is all you would need to take additionally in order to get those electives. So it's good to know ahead of time what your options are so that you get that done before you graduate and you have to retake a whole bunch of classes.
Yeah, it will be awesome. We can find out that information ahead of time and take those necessary courses. So for our students who are interested in teaching these elective courses, whether at the elementary, middle, or high school level, what are some best practices that you have learned as a CTE teacher that can help support them as they, step into this role?
Okay, so we're going to start with your routines and your procedures are key. So as we all know, routines and procedures are key for any area, but specifically when you are teaching a special or an elective, you probably have other stuff. So you have other equipment or you have supplies, and they just have to have specific routines on how you're going to organize them, how you want students to use them, how they're going to clean up, and just different processes beyond the typical routines. You'll also want to be thinking about different ways that you want students to enter and exit. So remember, if you're especially at the elementary level, you're going to be having your students in short bursts, and you could have one class is coming while another class is leaving. And so developing routines and procedures for that will really help you out a ton.
Yes, I agree 100%, especially for those little learners, having those clear-cut procedures and routines.
Yes.
Anything
And
else we need to be aware of?
to say they're so excited to come to your class too, usually
Yes,
for
they are.
specials.
Yeah,
And so they have like extra energy. And so knowing how to like really work with that will save you a lot of headache.
absolutely.
Okay, so the next one is to know your standards and not just in your content area or your specialty elective area, but also what the other teachers are teaching and kind of having an idea of their curriculum map. That way you can really work on cross-curricular projects and you can do things within your course that they don't have time in their course. So if they're reading a book or if they're learning about habitats, what can you do in your special that can support that and really help those students make those connections?
Yes, I love a good cross-curricular lesson in collaboration.
Yes. And then that leads to the last one. So get support through collaboration. So there's a few different ways to collaborate as a specials teacher. First, you should be collaborating with the teams at your school, even though they are not teaching your content, just so that once again, you know what they're doing. And then you also can collaborate with other specials or elective teachers within your district or like a region so that you can actually like work with them, figure out what's working, teaching practices. Is this working for your students? No, this isn't working for mine. Get some ideas that way. And then you can also expand with social media. You can find others who are
Mhm.
also teaching those electives or specials to gain some insight from them.
I love it. And one way that we can collab and connect with others is through professional development. And I understand you've done some work with Pop PD. Would you mind sharing a little bit about it?
Yes. So Pop PD is a new professional development marketplace. And it's a place where teachers are teaching other teachers. And there are courses, and so there are some mini courses that are like 10 minutes long. And then there are full courses that are like 2 to 3 hours. And you get to choose as a teacher what you want to take and which professional development is going to help you the best.
Awesome. And where can we find out more about Pop PD?
I believe it's poppd.co um is their website, but I can give you
Mhm.
the link for sure so that you can connect to that and just be watching. It's new, and so they keep adding a bunch of professional development classes all the time, and they're also trying to get other teachers to know. So there's some free courses, mini courses that you can take, and then there's also paid courses.
That sounds awesome. Thank you. I'll make sure we put the links in the show notes. And last but not least, Khristen, how can we connect with you to learn more about your work with your podcast and the work that you do over on Instagram?
Okay, so I hang out the most on Instagram. So you'll probably provide the link because my name is spelled a
Yes.
little bit different. So I'm at Khristen Massic everywhere, and it's Khristen. So that's usually the easiest place to find me. And then I do have a podcast, and it's called the On Your Prep podcast. It is specifically geared toward CTE teachers who are teaching multiple preps and who want to leave school when their contract hours are over.
Nice. That sounds like an amazing podcast for the teachers who are CTE elective special courses where they can find more resources, connect with you, and why not just open that up to larger groups of teachers that can help support them as well.
Yes, it's a lot of fun, and I enjoy doing it every week.
Awesome. Fantastic. Khristen, thank you so much for your time sharing about what elective or special courses are, why they're important for our students, because they're the application for what we do in our other courses. I loved the best practices that you shared. The one that that really resonated with me was the cross-curricular lessons. Those are awesome. And they're so much fun as a student to do because you can connect that learning from one class to another. And then we also shared about Pop PD. Khristen, is there anything else you'd like to share with my audience before we end our show today?
I think the biggest thing is to enjoy having a life outside of teaching, and you will have different seasons in your life. And so there will be times where you'll be able to spend a lot more time grading and planning. And then there's other times in your life where you just need to take a little bit of step back because you have a family and give yourself grace.
Yes, I love that. Give yourself some grace. Thank you so much, Khristen, for being on the show.
Thank you for having me.
And there you have it, EduMagicians. If you enjoyed this episode, please subscribe and share it with your friends. For more EduMagic, check out sfessage.com and follow Dr. Sam on Twitter and Instagram @sfessage. Until next time, you have the EduMagic within you.